I bore a child for Lee Beiju, the influential figure in the capital. Everyone assumed I would use this as leverage to force him into marriage. Yet on the 10th day after childbirth, I left the capital alone. Lee Beiju came chasing after me with our child in his arms, his eyes rimmed red as he stared at me. Jiang Jingqiu, you rejected me, and now you're abandoning the child you brought into this world. I couldn't hold back a tear, yet I never turned around, gazing at the vast, boundless sky in the distance. I said calmly, that's right, I want neither you nor the child. At 1001 hash, the moment I finished speaking, Lee Beiju turned and walked away, holding the wailing infant swaddled in his arms. For a man of his background and pride, chasing after someone all the way to the high-speed rail station was truly astonishing. But this wasn't the first time Lee Beiju and I had gone our separate ways. We actually broke up 3 years ago, the day before we ended things. In his luxurious penthouse office, on that solid wood desk worth millions, with his own hands, he slowly removed every piece of my clothing. Lying on the desk, I shyly closed my eyes. Lee Beiju leaned down and kissed me. Jingqiu, do you have any idea, every time you come in to report your work, there's only one thought on my mind, to have you right here on this desk, hard and fast. At 1001 hash, that afternoon, his office door was locked tight. His confidential secretary and personal assistant stood guard outside the door. A full 3 hours passed. Exhausted, I was lifted from the desk, then carried to the massive floor-to-ceiling window, the skyscraper at the very heart of Beijing's prime CBD, where every inch of land is worth its weight in gold. All things appear as insignificant as ants. Jingqiu, Lee Beiju embraced me from behind, his fervent kisses landing by my ear. Your birthday's coming up, what would you like as a gift? My fingers traced damp streaks across the chilled glass beneath them. The glass reflected my face, flushed with the glow of spring, and the shimmering pools of liquid light in my eyes. The water rippled and quivered, with each increasingly forceful and urgent thrust, until at last it shattered, falling drop by drop. I reached back for his hand, clutching his fingers tightly. Lee Beiju, I just want to be with you. He let out a low chuckle. He turned me around and pulled me close against his chest. Silly, haven't we always been together? At 1001 hash, I really was being foolish. It wasn't until he was about to get engaged that we learned he'd been dating his fiancée-to-be for a whole year. During that year, he frequently flew to France. Turns out it wasn't for business trips, but to visit his future wife. The day I handed in my resignation letter, the sky was overcast and unbearably muggy. I stood before that desk, staring down at the tips of my shoes. Lee Beiju looked displeased. Hesitating to sign, I didn't press him, just calmly brought up an old memory. Do you remember that incident 2 years ago, when the Zhu family went bankrupt? Their youngest son hired thugs to get back at you. I took a knife for you. I let out a soft laugh, looking at Lee Beiju through my puffy, reddened eyes. You promised me once, said you'd grant me one thing, and you'd never go back on your word. I never could decide what to ask of you. But Lee Beiju, I've made up my mind now. Let's end this for good. Lee Beiju gazed at me with profound intensity, the gold pen gripped in his slender fingers, a dark ink blot spread across the white paper. He finally broke the silence. Jiang Jingqiu, he called my name, but then said nothing more. He simply lowered his gaze and signed the document, then slid the resignation letter across to me. I reached for it, glancing at his signature, giving a slight bow. I said, "Thank you, Mr. Lee." At 1001 hash, I quit my job, ended my relationship, packed my bags, and moved back to my hometown. After everything had settled down, I started working and going on blind dates. I thought I would never see Lee Beiju again in this lifetime. Yet 2 years later, fate brought us face to face again. It was still summer in Beijing then. The sweltering heat was unbearable, so I greedily downed 2 ice creams to cool off. When I turned around, I saw Lee Beiju striding toward me, surrounded by a crowd of people. After that brief moment of dazed awkwardness, I kept my head down and melted back into the crowd, minding my own business. The venue was so vast, the crowd so immense, just a junior female employee like me. No one would notice me. Yet Lee Beiju walked right over. His bodyguards and personal assistants stopped anyone trying to approach him. In the center of the vast venue, a man in a bespoke black business suit, aloof and aristocratic, as unapproachable as a deity. The venue fell into complete silence. I kept my head lowered the entire time. I didn't speak, nor did I look at him. About a minute passed. Lee Beiju suddenly took a step forward. He reached out and took the half-melted ice cream I'd been hiding behind my back. No more period pain. At 1001 hash, a soft gasp rose from the crowd, then silence fell once more. Lee Beiju wiped his hands clean. He looked at me with calm eyes and said, "Go wait in my car for a bit." If it weren't for the engagement ring still on my left middle finger. If it weren't for the fact that I just ended a video call with my fiancé 20 minutes ago, I might have thought time had stood still for 2 whole years. Lee Beiju and I have never been apart. I'm still in Beijing, young and passionate, loving with all my heart and soul, but I was only dazed for a brief second. Then I looked up and smiled respectfully. "Sorry, Mr. Lee, I still have work to do." Lee Beiju didn't get angry, but his voice turned several degrees colder. "Jiang Jingqiu. Don't provoke me." I took a deep breath. "Sorry, I need to get back to work, Mr. Lee." The silence was so profound you could hear a pin drop. Even his secretary of 10 years shot me a surprised glance. I maintained a calm facade, though my back was already drenched in cold sweat, having been by his side for so long. How could I not know the unfathomable depths of his background? That huge incident our family went through back then, he resolved it with just a single word. "I'm being so disrespectful to him like this, it's practically asking for trouble." Lee Beiju suddenly let out a low chuckle. "Jiang Jingqiu, I never realized before how easily you get worked up." After saying that, he didn't press me any further, though he seemed to have lost interest because of me. He immediately left the venue with his entourage. I spent 3 days on edge. At 1001 hash, nothing happened. Only then did my heart begin to settle, though only halfway. On the very day I was leaving Beijing to return home, I suddenly received a call from my fiancé Lin Zhao. "Jingqiu, who on earth did you offend? Why are they doing this to me? All my friends and family back home invested their life savings in my company, their lifelong efforts, their hard-earned money, and now it's all gone. Jingqiu, I'm begging you, please go plead with that man. Ask him to let me go, will you? If he refuses, Jingqiu, I'll have no choice but to jump from this building right now." Lin Zhao's voice was completely hoarse, wavering between sobs and broken laughter. Clutching the phone, I felt a chilling numbness spread through my entire body. After a long pause, she finally spoke in a hushed voice. "Lin Zhao, who is this person you mentioned? All I know is that his surname is Song. And he works as a secretary." Scalding tears suddenly splashed onto her phone screen. "Secretary Song, Lee Beiju's most trusted confidant. I've been with him for 10 years. It was a midsummer in Beijing. At 1001 hash, the breeze at 10 in the evening still carried a lingering warmth. The black sedan was understated yet luxurious. Gliding through the neon-lit night of revelry, it felt like I was transported back to that night years ago. Secretary Song had come to pick me up in person that time too. I was only 21 back then. I walked through the door and saw Lee Beiju wearing nothing but a towel. I was so startled I nearly burst into tears right then and there. Lee Beiju found it amusing and even tried to comfort me with a few soothing words. And now, I'm already 26 years old. An engagement ring adorned my finger. I had a fiancé and was about to start a new life. But I knew that after tonight, it would all vanish into thin air. Lee Beiju stood on the balcony in a navy robe, smoking a cigarette. I walked in without saying a word, went straight to the bathroom. When I came out of the bathroom, I wasn't wearing a thing. Lee Beiju stubbed out his cigarette and leaned against the railing, watching me. He looked me up and down for a long moment, then he shook his head lightly and sighed. "You've lost weight." I stared at him numbly. "Lee Beiju, just do whatever you want. After you're done, would you please show some mercy and spare my fiancé's life, Jingqiu? Pleading for another man will only make me angrier." Lee Beiju's gaze was icy as it fell upon my fingers. "Get rid of that thing." I immediately removed the ring and tossed it into the trash without a second glance. Lee Beiju's expression softened slightly. "Come here." I walked over to him. He reached out and gently stroked my cheek. His slender fingers then trailed downward. Moonlight cascaded over the silvery hills, a soft, ethereal blanket of white, but that whiteness was soon shattered. I turned my face, gazing transfixed at the tender moonlight. Tears welled up silently. Only when Lee Beju lowered his head and bit into the cherry fruit, I winced and let out a soft moan from the pain. He then pulled me into an embrace, a faint trace of tenderness spilling from his eyes. "Don't be so stubborn. Just coax me like you used to. Is there anything I wouldn't do for you?" As he spoke, he pressed me against the floor-to-ceiling window. "When I saw you at the venue today. This is all I could think about." He gripped my waist without a shred of tenderness. I couldn't help but struggle, yet he pinned me down with cold, unyielding force. "Behave, unless you want him dead." I froze instantly. A moment later, Lee Beju seemed dissatisfied again. He raised his hand and landed a firm slap on my backside. "You know exactly how I like you." As Lee Beju carried me back to bed, my body had gone completely limp, drained of all strength, at 1001 hash, yet he looked thoroughly satisfied. His enthusiasm undiminished as he pressed for another round. I closed my eyes, my voice hoarse. "I'm truly exhausted, Lee Beju." In the dim light, Lee Beju looked down at me from above. He reached out and pinched my chin. "All right, I'll let you off for tonight." With that, he got up from the bed and headed for the bathroom. I struggled to sit up on the bed as well. Lee Beju lit a cigarette, watching me struggle out of bed with some difficulty. He then walked over to the sofa and picked up his own clothes. His gaze gradually turned icy. "What are you doing?" "Going back," I murmured, keeping my eyes downcast as I mechanically pulled on my clothes one piece at a time. "Where to?" "Back home." Lee Beju suddenly chuckled. "Still so naive, aren't you?" My hand trembled inexplicably. She continued without pause, zipping up her dress before bending down to slip on her shoes. Lee Beju crushed the lit cigarette into the ashtray. The crimson ember dissolved into fragmented ashes. "Jiang Jingqiu." I turned and walked away as if I hadn't heard him at all, yet he didn't say another word. He didn't even try to stop me. Downstairs, the maid and driver were already waiting. They were all very polite when they saw me. "Miss Jiang, Mr. Lee has instructed me to escort you." I nodded in a daze. Lee Beju's driver dropped me off at the airport and then left. Even after boarding the plane, I still felt as if I were in a dream. He just let me go like that. Little did I know, after all that time we'd spent together, I had no idea what a terrifying man Lee Beju truly was. I'd thought that after that night, my engagement with Lin Zhao is called off. We're done for good. At 1001 hash, Lee Beju will stop making things difficult for him. But little did I know, this was only the beginning. Lin Zhao's small company started facing one crisis after another. Lee Beju's men were toying with him like a cat playing with a mouse. Just when Lin Zhao was on the brink of despair, they'd dangle a glimmer of hope to pull him back from the edge. Then, just as he caught his breath and tried to regroup, they'd deliver another crushing blow. After being put through this cycle repeatedly, Lin Zhao finally reached his breaking point. They even reached such despair that they chose to end their life. Fortunately, they were lucky enough to be rushed to the hospital in time and saved from death. I went to the hospital to see Lin Zhao. But I didn't enter the ward, I just gave the fruit and nutritional supplements I brought to Lin Zhao's parents. As I was leaving the hospital, I received a call from Secretary Song. "Miss Jiang, Mr. Lee asked me to inquire when you'll be returning to Beijing." Clutching my phone under the scorching summer sun, I stood there drenched in sweat, yet I felt as if I'd plunged into an ice cellar. But back then, I was still foolishly refusing to yield. "I'm not coming back." Secretary Song said nothing and simply hung up the phone. Perhaps Lee Beju thought he could no longer use Lin Zhao's matter to control me, or maybe he realized how unseemly and pointless it was to pressure a woman like that. After that phone call, everything remained calm until late autumn. Though my parents still feel pained and regretful whenever Lin Zhao is mentioned, but as time went on, they also started to perk up and arrange blind dates for me again. When winter set in, Lee Beju got married. His new bride was none other than that wealthy young lady who had studied in France. The day I heard the news, the weather was rather gloomy. It reminds me of the day I broke up with him, for certain reasons. Their wedding was kept very low-key, not a single wedding photo was ever released. I bought some Oden on my way home from work. I sat on the bench by the roadside and ate it bite by bite. Near the end, the taste inexplicably turned a bit salty. Tiny ripples formed in the remaining broth. I reached up in surprise and touched my face. Only then did I realize, without knowing when, tears had been streaming down my face. That evening, I stepped out of the bathroom after my shower. I was sitting on the sofa chatting with my parents, at 1001 hash. My phone suddenly rang, but it was an unfamiliar number. I didn't answer, just hung up immediately. A moment later, a message came through. Jingqiu, are you coming down, or should I come up? That single line of text sent a chill down my spine. The phone rang again. I muted it and didn't dare answer until I was back in my room. Sure enough, it was Li Beiju's voice coming through the receiver. Li Beiju, what the hell do you want? I tried to keep my voice low, but I couldn't suppress the fury burning inside me. Jiang Jingqiu, I miss you. I froze for a moment, then put my phone down, ready to hang up. If you don't come, I'll have no choice but to pay a visit to your parents. Instinctively, I glanced back. From the living room outside came the lively sounds of the TV, along with my parents' laughter. My heart felt tightly wound by these threads of laughter. A dull ache began to bloom in my chest. I'm going down, all right? I'll wait for you. After hanging up, I threw on a trench coat without much thought. I made up an excuse for my parents before heading downstairs. Li Beiju's car was parked in the shadows of the trees along the street. I pulled my coat tighter and glanced around like a thief. I hurried over to the car. The rear window was rolled down a third of the way. Li Beiju was lounging inside. As I approached, his gaze settled on my face. A faint smile gradually dawned in his eyes. Get in. If you have something to say, we can talk like this. I refused to get in the car. Li Beiju didn't press me, just nodded. All right then, I'll come down. The car door opened, and he swung his legs out to step down. The next instant, he grabbed my chin and pinned me against the car. A scorching kiss, tinged with the faint scent of alcohol, crashed over me like a tidal wave. I didn't dare make a sound, struggling with all my might. In the chaos, a sharp slap landed across the side of his face. The freshly grown nails had scratched 3 bloody streaks across his jawline. Li Beiju abruptly released his grip, his expression darkening slightly. I was terrified too, stumbling back several steps in a daze. He touched the wounded area, his eyes suddenly narrowing sharply. Just when I thought he was going to retaliate and slap me back, he gave a faint, subtle smirk. Jiang Jingqiu, are you getting in the car with me, or should I just take you right here? Your choice. You know I'm capable of anything. My parents are right upstairs. The neighbors around here have known me since I was a kid. They've watched me grow up. At 1001 hash, it's not even late at night yet. Someone could come out any minute. I ended up getting in the car after all. Li Beiju didn't say another word to me the entire ride. It wasn't until we returned to his hotel, the moment we stepped inside, he shrugged off his suit jacket and pinned me against the door. My wrists were bound with his tie. Raised and secured above my head, the trench coat was torn open, the nightgown beneath tousled and pushed up. He unbuckled his belt and tugged his shirt free from his trousers. Then he unzipped his dress pants. I wept without a sound, my eyes swollen and red as I glared at him with pure venom. Li Beiju, must you push this? Must you force me into such a wretched state? If you stop now, I might not come to hate you. Hate me? Li Beiju let out a sudden laugh. Jingqiu, I'd rather you hated me. At least that's better than being strangers. No ties, no concern, utter indifference. You've truly lost your mind. Li Beiju, yes, I've lost my mind. His hands locked around my waist as he entered me with deliberate slowness. It was torment, like being carved open with a dull blade. Tears streamed from my eyes in an endless flow, yet he showed not a shred of tenderness. His movements were swift and rough, as if trying to shatter me. Later, he carried me to the floor-to-ceiling window. I knelt for so long that my knees were nearly raw and swollen. One last time, he carried me back to the bed. I felt as if I were about to shatter into pieces. Yet Li Beiju still refused to let me go. I couldn't control my body's instinctive reactions. Time and again, he sent me soaring to the heavens. Jiang Jingqiu, are you coming back to Beijing with me or not? I shook my head, eyes squeezed shut, shaking it with all my might. Li Beiju let out a low chuckle, but his anger still flared. I couldn't take it anymore, choking back sobs as I pleaded in a whisper, but he remained unmoved. He just looked down at me with utter indifference in his eyes. Since you're being so disobedient, why should I show you any mercy? Just take it. Jiang Jingqiu. Early the next morning, Li Beiju returned to Beijing. As before, he didn't force me. Nor did he do anything as absurd as dragging me to Beijing, at 1001 hash. However, it wasn't long before that old case involving my father, which Li Beiju had previously smoothed over with just a word, suddenly got dug up again. When my parents heard the news, they were so worried they fell ill one after the other. I tried to pull some strings to fix the situation. After all, the reason Li Beiju was willing to lend me a hand back then was because my father was truly an innocent scapegoat, unjustly implicated by his superior and pushed forward to take the fall. But no matter how hard I tried, it ultimately made no difference. That night, I was embarrassingly shoved out of the house, still clutching the gifts I had brought. The winter night was bitterly cold. I wasn't crying, just waiting for the traffic light at the intersection. Suddenly I dropped those expensive paper boxes and burst out laughing. I was laughing so hard I doubled over, tears streaming down my face. Passers-by looked at me as if I were a madman, but I paid no heed. Secretary Song called for the second time. The same script as before. Miss Jiang, Mr. Li asked me to inquire when you'll be returning to Beijing. Standing in the biting wind, I pulled my coat tightly around myself. The traffic light changed, and pedestrians streamed past in both directions. I stood alone on the crosswalk, completely still. The person on the other end of the line seemed to have endless patience. They never once urged me to speak. I can't recall how long I stood there, until my legs and feet went numb with cold. Only then did I slowly speak. Tell Li Beiju to come see me. There's something I need to clarify with him first. 2 days later, everything was back to square one. It was as if nothing had ever happened during these days. At 1001 hash, Li Beiju did come to see me, and he stayed in my hometown for 3 days. But during those 3 days, I hardly got to see him. He seemed incredibly busy, with an absurd number of social engagements. I was quite content with the peace and quiet. Late on the third night, he came home carrying a faint scent of alcohol. I was still awake, sitting alone on the terrace lost in thought. Li Beiju walked over and stood behind me. He placed both hands on my shoulders, leaned down, and kissed my cheek. Don't fall asleep yet, wait for me a while. After saying that, he turned and went to the bathroom. He came back after his shower, casually wearing a robe. Secretary Song mentioned you have something to tell me. What is it? He sat down beside me, pulled me into his arms, and asked in a low voice. I won't be the other woman, and I'm not going to be anyone's mistress. Li Beiju didn't seem the least bit surprised by this. He even let out a soft chuckle. I never intended to keep this from you. Ours is a marriage of convenience. I just gazed at the distant sky beyond the balcony and said calmly, whether it's a contract or not is irrelevant to me. The fact remains, you're married. Only then did I turn to look at him. So even if we argue till the ends of the earth, you're married. Sleeping with you would make me a shameless homewrecker. Li Beiju's eyes darkened. If I say you're not, then nobody in this world would dare call you one. Don't give me that nonsense. I let out a self-deprecating laugh. This is my final boundary. If you push me beyond it, I'd rather die. Jingqiu. Li Beiju gripped my jaw. You think threatening me with death would scare me? Dying is easy for you. But what about the family you'd leave behind? My whole body began to tremble, teeth chattering with a grating sound. My tear ducts ached with pent-up pressure. Yet not a single tear would fall. It felt as though my spine had been ripped out of me. My whole body went limp as a rag doll. Li Beiju's grip on my jaw loosened slightly. He raised his other hand and gently brushed away the stray strands of hair from my cheek. At 1001 hash. There, with those words, he lowered his head again and pressed a kiss to my cold, trembling lips. Don't say things like that so casually. I would never treat you unfairly. Li Beiju turned his face away and coughed softly, seeming somewhat uncomfortable. After all, you're the woman I love. Why would I ever truly make things difficult for you? His voice was filled with tenderness, and the way he looked at me was equally gentle. In that moment of despair, it felt like I had grabbed onto a lifeline once again. Li Beiju. I looked up at him, and my tears finally broke free like a dam bursting. Li Beiju, I promise you, I won't date, go on blind dates, or get married ever again. Let's not see each other or have any contact while you're still married. All right. Li Beiju didn't respond. He just kept looking down at me from his superior position. I had never in my life encountered such an icy, profound gaze. An abyss like hell itself devoured every last bit of me. Jiang Jingqiu. How about this arrangement? My wife cannot bear children. Give me a child, and I'll grant you what you desire. If you want to cut all ties with me after this, then so be it. Think carefully before you answer me. Li Beiju brushed the stray hairs away from my forehead. The chill in his eyes softened slightly as he said, I'll give you 3 days. Truth be told, it didn't take me 3 days. The day after he returned to the capital, I came to my senses and made up my mind. At 1001 hash. I know I'm powerless to change any of this, and I can't bear to abandon my closest family, so I can't even choose death. But there's one thing I can still fight for. When I stepped into Li Beiju's office again, it felt like a lifetime had passed. In the office, besides him and me, there were 2 lawyers present. I watched Li Beiju sign the contract and press his fingerprint onto it. I also signed and pressed my fingerprint. I told you, the child won't be illegitimate. He will be my firstborn, Li Beiju's first child. He is a legitimate descendant worthy of being recorded in the Li family genealogy. After the lawyer left, Li Beiju pulled me into his arms and repeated those 2 sentences once more. I ignored him, carefully storing away that contract with utmost caution. Then, just as he leaned in to kiss me, I pushed him away. Tomorrow night, come over tomorrow night. My voice was eerily calm, so much so that Li Beiju seemed slightly taken aback. Why tomorrow night? A faint smile touched my lips. Because tomorrow night is my ovulation window. If I could get pregnant in one try, I wouldn't have to keep dealing with him over and over. Li Beiju's expression gradually darkened. But he didn't lose his temper. Instead, I had Secretary Song come over to drive me back to the villa. Without another moment's hesitation, I turned and walked out the door. A few steps away, I faintly heard the sound of something shattering from inside, but I kept walking without pause. There are moments when I truly despise myself, even when I've reached this point, lying with Li Beiju, at 1001 hash, my body still betrays me with its primal instincts, but soon enough, I came to terms with it. If you can't fight it and can't stop it, you might as well lie back and enjoy it. If it hurts, I'll bite him and hit him. If it's too rough, I'll curse at him and kick him. If it feels good, I'll also respond to his kisses. Li Beiju was the complete package, devastatingly handsome, sculpted physique, filthy rich, and impossibly skilled in bed. Definitely beats using a vibrator any day. Perhaps sensing my distraction, his movements suddenly grew more forceful, just as my head was about to hit the wall. He reached out just in time and shielded me. Jiang Jingqiu, he looked down at me. I couldn't quite understand. He had already gotten what he wanted. Why does your gaze hold such bitter resentment when you look into my eyes? What is it that he resents so deeply? I found it almost laughable. Yet a dull ache lingered deep in my abdomen from his earlier blow. I furrowed my brow and kicked at him with my foot. You're hurting me. But Li Beiju caught my ankle and pushed it higher. He slowly lowered himself, his gaze fixed intently on me, at 1001 hash, until we were completely and utterly joined as one, to a depth I could barely endure. Jiang Jingqiu, he lowered his head and captured my lips in a kiss that was both dominant and rough. Say you love me, Jiang Jingqiu, just like all those times before. Tell me I'm the only one you love. I did tell him I loved him. In those moments when we were completely wrapped up in each other, every time our passion reached its peak. Back in those days, when I was still young and naive, there were countless times I couldn't contain the overwhelming emotions surging within me. Time and again, I'd foolishly utter the word love to him. I even rushed without hesitation to take that knife for him during the most perilous moment. In fact, it wasn't until our first breakup that I'm still in love with him. In fact, when we reunited before, I hadn't truly let him go or moved on. I've never been the type to love fiercely and let go easily. The first man I truly loved left a deeper mark on my soul, but thanks to him, the wound carved into my bones and flesh never healed. Instead, it festered, and this festering wound continues to haunt me every waking moment. The affection and love men claim to feel are the cheapest commodities in this world. In the end, I still didn't say those words. That final time that night, Li Beiju wrapped things up half-heartedly and hastily. Then he got up, washed, dressed, and left the villa. Everyone around Li Beiju had noticed lately. They could almost feel his foul mood. At 1001 hash, Jiang Jingqiu was right there in Beijing. But aside from that one night, Li Beiju never went back to that villa. He only occasionally returned to the Lee family's old residence. When faced with elders who hesitate to speak their minds, Lee Beiju would feel an inexplicable thrill of vindication. The marriage arrangement was forced upon him. The bride was handpicked after meticulous selection. Now that she wants him to divorce and marry someone else, it feels like a slap in the face, but he stubbornly refuses to give in. He just picked at his dinner before getting up and leaving. You could hear a pin drop in the dining room. Lee Beiju let out a derisive snort without turning back. His phone had been ringing for quite some time before he finally pulled it out to check. It turned out to be a call from Jiang Jingqiu's housekeeper. His footsteps came to an abrupt halt. Amid the biting wind of the winter night, an inexplicable warmth seemed to bloom from deep within his chest. For reasons known only to himself, the corners of his lips curled into a faint smile. "Mr. Lee. Miss Jiang has been ill for days. She absolutely refused to let us inform you. Tonight her fever spiked again. Dr. Jiang came to administer N4, but Miss Jiang is being uncooperative. I'll be right there." Lee Beiju hung up the phone and told his driver not to follow. He made the 50-minute journey in under half an hour. The bedroom was in disarray, with pillows and quilts strewn across the floor. Jiang Jingqiu sat with her hair disheveled, curled up in the corner of the bed, refusing to let anyone come near. "Everyone out, please." He removed his overcoat and handed it to the servant, giving the instruction calmly. Everyone withdrew from the room. He walked step by step to the bedside. Jingqiu, the small, curled-up figure, trembled slightly. His hand came down, landing on her disheveled long hair, and he gently stroked it with great care. She didn't seem to resist much. He took another step forward, grasped her slender shoulders, and drew her into an embrace. Her body was burning with fever, so much that his own chest ached with a sudden pang. "Jingqiu, is your stomach hurting again?" After suffering that stab wound, she was left with a lasting complication. Healed wounds can still ache with phantom pain. Whenever she fell ill, nightmares would always haunt her. Visions of that day would return, the assailant's twisted face leering at her. Lee Beiju was the only one who knew about all this. "Don't be afraid, everything's fine now, it's all over." He held her close, soothing her patiently. "The police caught that person long ago. He'll never leave prison. You're okay too, your wounds have healed nicely, and the scars have faded almost completely." Lee Beiju gently stroked her back in a steady rhythm. He lowered his head again and kissed her gently, whispering, "Jingqiu, don't be afraid, I'm here with you." Burning with fever and barely conscious, she drowsily opened her eyes. It took her a moment to recognize the person in front of her. But the moment she did, her entire body seemed to relax just a little. Tears began to fall from her eyes, one by one. Her body was burning with fever, yet her fingers were ice cold. She clutched his sleeve tightly and asked, "Lee Beiju, it's me, Lee Beiju." A wave of hurt welled up in her eyes. Her grip on his sleeve tightened abruptly, like a wronged child finally seeing a familiar face. She burst into loud sobs. "Why did you take so long? That man was so cruel, he even hit me." Lee Beiju suddenly pulled her into a tight embrace. His eyes stung fiercely, and he was on the verge of tears. In the immediate aftermath of the incident, Jiang Jingqiu often had nightmares like this. He stayed with her night after night. He was only gone for one brief night. When he returned, she clung to him and wept bitterly, her heart full of grievance. If not for the fever clouding her mind with illness, she would never depend on him like that again. "Guess I'll never get to say these words now." He was fully aware of it all, yet he willingly lost himself in it, savoring every moment. "I'm sorry, Jingqiu. I came back too late. I promise I'll never leave you again, okay?" Her sobs gradually subsided as she nodded. "You said it yourself, you can't lie to me." "Yeah, no more lies. I'll never lie to you again." Tears still streaked her face when she suddenly looked up at him and smiled. "Lee Beiju, I love you." He froze. His limbs went numb, leaving him unable to move. Before he knew it, she had fallen into a deep slumber in his arms. Bit by bit, he regained his scattered senses. "Jiang Jingqiu," he murmured, lowering his head to press his cheek against hers. "I love you too, Jiang Jingqiu. I found out I was pregnant in the early spring of the following year. Perhaps it was due to my prolonged emotional distress, at 1001 hash, or maybe my body never fully recovered from taking that knife for Lee Beiju. My health remained fragile throughout the entire pregnancy. The first 3 months were mostly spent in the hospital for pregnancy preservation. During the second trimester, I actually had 2 months of peaceful days. My relationship with Lee Beju seemed to have eased up a bit. I heard his wife has been living in France all along. Their marriage was never consummated. I also heard they'd already drafted divorce papers long ago. They were just waiting for the most opportune moment to announce it. But none of this has anything to do with me. I was just going about my routine prenatal checkups and taking care of my pregnancy. By the 5th month of pregnancy, I could often feel the baby moving. It was such a magical feeling that sometimes I couldn't help but get teary-eyed. But maybe it was mostly the hormones at play. He made me lose control of myself, instinctively unable to ignore his presence. When winter settled in the capital, I was just 20 days away from my due date. But on that very day, something unexpected happened. I was basking in the sun under the eaves when Lee Beju returned. The sunlight was exceptionally warm that day, without a single breath of wind. At 1001 hash, I soon grew drowsy from basking in the sun and dozed off. When I woke up, the maid informed me that Lee Beju had come by. I just murmured an acknowledgement and didn't think much of it. I had the kitchen bring out some warm kanji, had a small bowl, and then went upstairs. As I passed by Lee Beju's study, I had no intention of stopping or eavesdropping on the conversation inside, but by chance, I heard Lee Beju mention a few very familiar names, my father's, and his immediate superiors, and my own. Once she gives birth, I'll find other ways to gradually win her back. After carrying a child for 10 months, how could any woman abandon her own flesh and blood? Let's never bring up the matter of Jingqiu's father again. This ends here. Take it to your grave. Make sure everyone involved in this matter keeps their mouths shut. I don't want to hear another word about this ever again. This trick only works twice. Any more would be overkill. You know I only want to win her over, not actually harm her family. When it comes to her, and those close to her, I can't help but soften. I stood outside the study, cradling my heavily swollen belly. It wasn't until this moment, hearing it with my own ears, that I foolishly understood. I had been caught in a trap from the very beginning. From the start, he had been scheming against me. The undeserved suffering that befell my dearest ones was actually his doing all along. But what have I, Jiang Jingqiu, ever done to deserve this? To think a man like Lee Beju would go to such lengths just to have me. Honestly, why did he even need to make such a production out of it? Or does he think someone like him doesn't deserve genuine love? Does he really believe no one could love him just for who he is? Who's more pitiful, me or Lee Beju? I wanted to laugh, but the laughter got stuck in my throat. My stomach convulsed with pain, sharp as a knife twisting through my flesh. Moments later, a sudden rush of warmth gushed out. It dripped onto the floor, a pool of crimson. As I drifted into unconsciousness, I heard a chaotic jumble of sounds. The servants' chaotic shouts and cries, Lee Beju's trembling voice, barely recognizable, and his ice-cold, shaking hands. I desperately wanted to open my eyes and see his pitiful, disheveled state, but I simply had no strength left. I feel utterly exhausted. I'm ready to sleep. In the early winter of the capital, I gave birth to a child. It was a boy, and also Lee Beju's firstborn. The massive hemorrhage left me completely drained. At 1001 hash. It wasn't until the 3rd day after giving birth that I started regaining some strength. Lee Beju eagerly brought the baby to my bedside, cradling them in his arms. A tiny, sleeping infant was swaddled in a blue blanket. My gaze merely brushed across his face before I immediately looked away. Jingqiu, look at him, his eyebrows and mouth are so much like yours. He carefully handed the child to me. His eyes were filled with earnest anticipation, but I turned my face away and closed my eyes again. I'm tired, I want to sleep for a while. Lee Beju stared at me blankly for a long moment before finally saying, all right, get some rest then, I'll take him out. With my eyes closed, I listened to the sound of his footsteps fading into the distance. The door opened, then closed, all sound vanished. Yet before my closed eyes appeared the hazy face of an infant, with the same brows and eyes as mine, that tiny mouth, this piece of flesh that's been growing inside me for nearly 10 months. Now I have to cut it out with my own hands. How could it not hurt? But I have no other choice. I can't look at him, not even a single glance. Once I do, I'll never be able to let go. When the baby turned 1 week old, waking from my nap, I suddenly noticed something new by my pillow. It was a thin craft paper envelope, at 1001 hash. Inside were several sheets of paper, with the words divorce agreement printed on the first page. I glanced at it and put it right back. His marriage had nothing to do with me. Divorce has nothing to do with me, naturally. I'm not like those romance novel heroines, deluding myself into thinking I could make powerful men bend their knees. Just as Lee Beiju said before, his marriage was a transaction designed to maximize benefits, so the divorce, naturally, happened when there was nothing left to gain. It had nothing to do with me. In the afternoon, Lee Beiju brought the child to my hospital room again. By then, I was able to get out of bed and take a few steps. So I started slowly organizing my belongings. The moment he entered, he noticed the untouched paper bag by my bedside. His eyes gradually darkened, but he quickly composed himself. He came over to me, cradling the baby and playing with them. Jingqiu, look, he's opening his little mouth like he's searching for food. Do you think he might be hungry? The little blue swaddle was handed to me. I turned my face away. If he's hungry, let the maternity nurse feed him formula. I wouldn't even look at him, let alone breastfeed him. Lee Beiju chuckled. Believe it or not, I'm the one feeding him every time now. I stayed silent, just staring out the window. Lee Beiju went on chattering. I've even learned how to change diapers. The little one has quite an appetite, keeps us up 2 or 3 times a night. He seems to have put on some weight these past couple of days. His cheeks all chubby. Would you like to see? As he spoke, he actually placed the child right beside me. I'm going to make a phone call. Jingqiu, could you keep an eye on him for a moment? Before I could even get a word out, Lee Beiju had already strode out of the room. He seemed genuinely hungry, opening his tiny mouth and searching around before bursting into tears. The moment his cries pierced the air, my heart suddenly clenched with a sharp pang. I instinctively wanted to scoop him up in my arms, but the moment I reached out, I steeled my heart. I turned around and went straight to the bathroom. Standing before the mirror, tears streamed down like rain. The crying outside lingered for a moment longer before fading away. The nanny must have carried him away, I suppose. I raised my hand and wiped away my tears. The vast emptiness of the silence felt like an abyss capable of swallowing all existence. I can't bear another second of this. The weather wasn't great the day I left. It seems like every time I leave Beijing, the sky is this gloomy. I said I wanted to go downstairs for a walk in the little garden. At 1001 hash, I didn't let the caregiver who'd been looking after me come along. I didn't have much anyway, left all the clothes and personal items behind, only took my identification documents with me, so they didn't suspect a thing. I hailed a taxi and headed straight to the high-speed rail station. Just as the taxi was approaching the station, I suddenly noticed a familiar car speeding after us. Lee Beiju's trench coat was disheveled, his hair slightly tousled. There stood this tall, handsome man, holding a wailing infant in his arms. It instantly drew all eyes in the vicinity. I wrapped the heavy coat tightly around myself and adjusted my hat. Only then did I grab my bag and step out of the vehicle. Lee Beiju rushed over. His eyes rimmed red as he stared at me. Jiang Jingqiu, it's fine if you don't want me, but now you're abandoning the child you brought into this world. I couldn't hold back a single tear, yet I never turned around, gazing at the vast, boundless sky in the distance. I said calmly, that's right. I want neither you nor the child anymore. Jiang Jingqiu, just how much colder can your heart get? I let out a light laugh. Oh, I certainly can. Lee Beiju, do you have any idea? Every moment with you this past year has been pure agony. If you break your promise this time and go back on our agreement. I turned slowly, staring at him with icy detachment. The mere thought of you will sicken me for the rest of my life. I said these final words. Lee Beiju didn't utter another word. The swaddled infant continued to wail. He clutched the child tighter, turned, and strode away. I walked forward as well, entering the station entrance without a single glance back. So I had no idea. The moment I stepped forward, Lee Beiju halted with the child in his arms. He turned and watched me walk away, step by step. Neither Lee Beiju nor I knew. That was the last time we ever saw each other in this lifetime. At 35, I quietly got married. After all the twists and turns, I still ended up marrying Lin Zhao. Back then, after he'd achieved some success in his career, he also got married through a matchmaking arrangement. At 1001 hash. But that marriage lasted only 3 years. His wife gave birth to a daughter, and they amicably divorced when the child turned 1. For his daughter's sake, Lin Zhao never remarried. It wasn't until his daughter started elementary school that Lin Zhao and I unexpectedly crossed paths again. We came together in a very simple, natural way, no grand passion, no earth-shattering moments, like a cup of warm water, a bowl of warm kanji, but it's exactly the ordinary life I've always yearned for. I suffered a major hemorrhage during childbirth, which made it nearly impossible for me to have more children, but I never really wanted another child anyway. Lin Zhao had considered it, but after learning about my condition, he completely dropped the idea. Our married life settled into a comfortable routine. Lin Zhao treated me with genuine kindness. His daughter gradually warmed up to me. I'd sometimes brush her hair or pick out clothes for her. That child would suddenly come to mind. But it was just a fleeting thought. His name is Li Shihe, and all these years later, he remains Li Beizhou's only child. He never remarried and has no new wife. He has no legitimate children from marriage, nor any other offspring out of wedlock. Li Shihe was recorded in the Li family genealogy from the moment of his birth. He is the eldest son of Li Beizhou, and may potentially remain his only child in the future. He will inherit everything that belonged to Li Beizhou. That's exactly what I had in mind all those years ago, the maximum benefit I could possibly secure for myself. I brought him into this world. I never loved him for a single day. I haven't been a proper mother. He has every right to resent me, or he can simply disregard me. I believe I can accept it all with peace of mind. My life has simply been that of an ordinary woman. I never wanted to fight tooth and nail to fit into a world that wasn't meant for me. That's why I can let go of everything in Beijing with such clarity and reason. Li Beizhou once said I had a heart of stone. Come to think of it, he wasn't wrong. I did love him, but never more than I loved myself. And this, perhaps, is one of the deepest reasons for his resentment toward me. As for Li Beizhou, whether he likes me or loves me, perhaps even he himself can't say for sure, and I, for my part, have long ceased to care. 24. Li Shihe. I actually saw my biological mother a few times before I turned 18, but I only watched from a distance, never approaching to disturb her. The first time I saw her, her husband at the time was picking her up from work. She walked up to the car with a gentle smile. A little girl, slightly younger than me, got out of the car. The girl rushed over to hug her, calling her mom. She responded with a smile and gently stroked the girl's hair. He helped her into the car and they drove away. I stood by the roadside for a long time, watching until the car disappeared from view. Then I trudged back to the hotel, feeling utterly dejected. My father was smoking on the balcony, and when he saw me return, he smiled and waved me over. As I approached, I noticed the faintest redness at the corners of his eyes. But I didn't ask him about it. I was 14 then, drinking with my father for the first time. I got drunk almost immediately. I had a dream. In the dream, she came to pick me up after school. She gently stroked my hair, held my hand as we got in the car, smiling tenderly. But I cried, weeping from the dream all the way until I woke. That was the first time I cried after growing up, and the last. The second time I saw her, she was alone that day, carrying her bag. She bought a few flowers at the florist, passing by a bubble tea shop. She also bought an ice cream. One wasn't enough, so I bought another. I couldn't help but laugh. The way she ate her ice cream made her look just like a little girl. Then she got a phone call and suddenly became all flustered. She reluctantly tossed the remaining half of the ice cream into the trash, yet her eyes sparkled with a smile, radiating pure happiness. I've never had a sweet tooth since childhood, but that day I bought 2 ice creams anyway. My father noticed when I brought them home. Why the sudden urge for ice cream? He said this, yet reached over and took one. We finished our ice cream in silence. Neither of us brought her up, but we both knew perfectly well that we were thinking of her. When I turned 18, I was about to go abroad for my studies. It was the last time I went to see her. I wonder if it was because of that unspoken bond between mother and child. She seemed to sense my presence, yet throughout the entire walk, she never once glanced back. Along the way, she passed by a trendy hotspot. The shop sold wishing plaques that customers could inscribe with their dreams and hang on the wishing tree outside. She went inside for about 10 minutes, then hurriedly called a cab and left. As I was walking over, a shop assistant stopped me. They gave me a wishing plaque. They said a lady had asked them to pass it on to me. The sign was quite plain, only a few sparse words were written on it. The handwriting was delicate and graceful, likely hers. Best wishes to Shihir, peace and health. Clutching the wooden plaque, I suddenly burst into tears. Perhaps in this life, the bond between mother and child was just too fragile. If there is a next life, I want to be that little girl. I want her to pat my head with a smile and hold my hand. Step by step, we move forward together. 25, Epilogue. The year I turned 24, I returned from studying abroad. It was only upon my return that I learned my father was critically ill. Seeing me, he bedridden from long illness, seemed genuinely comforted. For once, he spoke at length, but soon, he slipped back into a coma. In his final moments, he kept repeating a name over and over, Jiang Jingqiu, Jiang Jingqiu. I knew his regrets. And I knew he had a wish that would never come true. I originally thought the same as him, that we should never disturb her peaceful life. But blood runs thicker than water, and in the end, I couldn't resist. I met with her. I told her that her father was on his deathbed and could pass away at any moment. She still appeared calm, just sitting there with trembling hands, remaining silent for a long while. I excused myself to get a hot drink, giving her some time alone. When I returned, her eyes were noticeably red. She must have been crying earlier. I can't quite describe the turmoil in my heart, yet I felt a glimmer of happiness for father. She still sheds tears over his passing. She must have carried some trace of him in her heart. I asked if she would come back to Beijing with me to see my father one last time. She didn't turn me down, but just as our plane touched down in Beijing, we got word from the hospital that my father had passed away. I, his only son, wasn't by his side when he passed away, the woman he never forgot his entire life. He didn't get to see her one last time either. She stood there, gazing at me with a lost and helpless look. I didn't say a word. Just held her tight. Dad may be gone, but you still have me. It's okay. Don't be afraid, Mom. Her trembling hands finally rose to embrace me gently. Her tears fell, one by one, scalding hot. After crying for a long while, she reached out and touched my face. Shihir, life won't be easy for you from now on. Indeed, I am my father's only child. My father had already prepared his will when he fell ill. Everything he had was split in two, half for me, half for her. I know she wouldn't take it. But that's all right, I'll manage it all on her behalf. No matter what they say, no matter how they try to tarnish her name, yet I've always remembered what my father told me. She's the one who gave me life, who fought tooth and nail to bring me into this world. I must love her with everything I have. After all, in this whole world, she and I are each other's only true family. Mom, I called out again in a hushed voice. The name I'd whispered 1,000 times in my dreams. I finally had the courage to say it to her. As long as you're here, Mom, I'm not afraid of any hardship. She wiped away her tears and looked at me with eyes full of relief and contentment. Shihir, let's go. It's time to see your father off on his final journey. She held my hand. Her grasp was soft and warm, yet firm and strong. I let her hold my hand as we moved forward, step by step, one after another. End. Story 2. On his 60th birthday. My husband, He Huarien, suddenly announced he wanted to retire to the countryside with his childhood sweetheart. He wasn't the only one stunned. Chen Lan's face visibly darkened at the sight. The thought of living here long-term made her shove He Huarien in frustration. Didn't you say your family home was cozy and comfortable? This is what you meant. Everyone expected me to object, but I gave my consent. He Huarien hadn't expected this either. Turning to the first person he'd met on the road, the old bachelor, he asked, "Where are our family's furnishings? Was the place robbed?" After decades of failing to win his love, I decided to set him free. The old bachelor took a drag from his cigarette and explained, "When your parents left over a decade ago, they swore they'd never return. They gave the furniture to villagers themselves. Some bored kid probably smashed the windows, and the roof. Just old age, plenty of crumbling houses around here. But before he left, I demanded he walk away with nothing, since I'd earned nearly every penny in this household." He Huayan's first instinct was to reclaim the pieces. "Do you know which households took them?" He Huarien sneered. "All you care about is money. After I retire to the countryside, I won't need a penny to live comfortably." I think he's being naive. his so-called rural retreat just means living in a cozy house. Dabbling in gardening occasionally, surrounded by helpful neighbors. In reality, what awaits him is his family's dilapidated old house, endless farm chores the moment he opens his eyes, a deserted village crawling with roaches and rats, and the desperation of being unable to get medical help during emergencies. 1. I'm retiring to the countryside. This might be my last gathering with everyone. I'm going to live a quiet life, my husband Houarian announced excitedly at his 60th birthday banquet. Leaving the guests exchanging bewildered glances, everyone probably thought he'd lost his marbles. At 60, this ordinary office worker with a modest 5,000 yuan monthly salary just retired 2 months ago. If he weren't married to me, Zhong Nana, no one would have attended this birthday party. His current retired life, gardening in our villa's backyard and chatting with a few friends, is practically countryside retirement already. What more does he want? How much more retirement does he need? Making such a formal announcement at his birthday party, what a production. Huayan, aren't you already living the rural retreat you wanted? I couldn't understand his meaning as I pointed to the vegetable patch in our villa's garden and the nearby chicken coop. Isn't this exactly the pastoral life he desired? For his gardening whim, I had several winter sweet trees relocated from my garden. For his poultry fancy, I arranged both the construction of a coop and hired someone to teach him animal husbandry. What more could he possibly want? What else is he dissatisfied about? It's not enough. I'm returning to my ancestral village, declared he Huayan with conviction. My parents' old house still stands there, back to the mountain village. But my business is in the city. I can't be away for long. I'd worry sick about you living there alone. The roads are too remote, medical care is practically non-existent. If you fell ill, getting treatment would be a nightmare. I instinctively furrowed my brow, convinced this reckless decision of his was pure folly. Countless people fight tooth and nail to escape rural villages. Yet here he is choosing to return. Who said anything about going back with you? Since you love money so much, why don't you marry it? I'm retreating to the countryside with Chen Lan. She's already agreed. All these years I've stayed for the children. For our parents, putting off divorce until I couldn't take it anymore. I'm done. It's time I lived for myself, chased my own happiness. For the sake of all our years together as husband and wife, I beg you not to stand in my way. Huayan's chest heaved visibly with emotion as he spoke. These words had clearly been pent up for a long time. His resentment toward me had festered for years. Yet he'd never brought it up for various reasons. Now that his parents are laid to rest and the children are grown, I've outlived my usefulness to him. Only now does he remember he has a self to be. Why didn't he bring this up back when he was a nobody, when the kids were still young and I was still in my prime? Had he just said he hated me, I would have agreed to divorce him in a heartbeat. There was no need to wait until now. He's squandered the best years of my life and turned our decades of love into some pathetic joke. With tears welling in my eyes, I asked him, Houarian, are you really divorcing me, too? Yes, I want a divorce, Huayan said nonchalantly. In his view, the kids were grown now, his parents had passed away, nothing could hold him back anymore. He couldn't wait to break free from his entrepreneur wife and live his own carefree life. Dad, think carefully. If you leave with Aunt Cheng, there won't be a place for you in this family anymore. My daughter Tian, seeing he meant business, urgently tried to reason with him. Dad, just apologize already. You've been with Mom for over 30 years, now you divorce her for another woman. Without Mom, where would you be today? My son Bin rushed to intervene too. Even our children found his decision utterly absurd. I've done nothing wrong. I want a divorce. I'll retreat to the countryside. I belong only to myself. With that, Houarian publicly strode through the crowd toward Chen Lan standing in the corner and took her hand before everyone. Houarian, Chen Lan threw herself into his arms with teary-eyed devotion, that sickeningly innocent act of hers making people nauseous, yet Houarian lapped it up. I'm finally free. We'll spend the rest of our days together, retreating to the countryside, Houarian declared with the air of a man ready to defy the whole world for Chen Lan. How laughable. The man I'd loved for decades not only held no place for me in his heart, he'd been carrying a torch for his first love all along. After all these years of devotion, giving him the best life, providing our children with top-tier education, Ensuring his parents' peaceful retirement, he sees it only as chains that trapped him. To someone who doesn't love you, even your kindness feels like a mistake. I thought if I waited long enough and loved him hard enough, he'd finally see my sincerity. 30 years of marriage, I believed even a stone would have warmed by now, but He Huiyan's heart is colder than stone, forever frozen, still clinging to Chen Lan, who abandoned him for another man. To him, Chen Lan's flaws are virtues, while my virtues are reduced to mere faults. A marriage like this should have ended long ago. I raised my hand to slap him hard, but paused mid-air and let it drop. He's not worth my rage. I must protect my health, no use falling ill over such a man. Taking a few deep breaths, I sat down with my children's support to compose myself before addressing the entwined couple. As you wish, we're getting divorced. He Huiyan showed not a shred of remorse. With visible delight, he dragged out a pre-packed suitcase from the storage room and tossed me divorce papers. Sign these. We'll process it at the Civil Affairs Bureau. I'm leaving with Chen Lan this afternoon. He Tiantian couldn't hold back anymore, grabbing her father's arm. Dad, if you really divorce Mom for this homewrecker, don't expect me to call you father ever again. He Bin quickly chimed in. Dad, I stand with my sister. If you dare betray Mom, we're cutting all ties with you. Thank goodness I've raised these children well. They didn't side with their father but chose to stand by me. No one understands the hardships I've endured these years better than them. He Huiyan hesitated as he looked at his son and daughter before him. He might disregard me, but he couldn't completely ignore how his children felt. At this critical moment, Chen Lan grabbed his arm and began weeping pitifully. Huiyan, you can't waver now. You promised we'd retreat to the countryside together. I've been waiting for you. 3. Chen Lan's tears always worked like magic on He Huiyan. His eyes instantly hardened as he pointed at me. If the divorce papers are in order, sign them quickly. I'm on a tight schedule. What kind of attitude is this? How dare he speak to me like that? I stopped indulging him and tore the divorce papers to shreds in front of everyone, delivering a brutal verbal blow. A cheating deadbeat like you who contributed nothing to this family thinks you deserve half of what I've built. If you want a divorce, fine. But every penny in this house was earned by me. You're walking out with nothing. You freeloader. He Jian had never seen me confront him with this cold, businesslike demeanor before. He trembled with rage on the spot. Nothing infuriated him more than being called a freeloader, and now that the accusation came from me, it cemented his humiliating reality. He Huiyan pointed at my nose, struggling to find words before finally sputtering. I have a salary too. Before I could respond, He Tiantian scoffed. Dad, your measly 5,000 salary can't even cover your own expenses, Grandma and Grandpa's burial plots. Mine and brother's international school tuition, Mom paid for all of it. You've contributed nothing to this family. He Huiyan turned to our son He Bin, desperately hoping he'd speak up in his defense. Yet He Bin sided with me. Dad, Mom's right. If you insist on divorce, you should leave with nothing. Seeing everyone siding with me, He Huiyan was so furious he nearly lost his balance. It was only with Chen Lan's constant support that he managed to stay on his feet. Finally, he sighed and said, Fine, I'll leave with nothing. With my 5,000 salary, I can live comfortably enough in the countryside. Little did he know, Chen Lan's face instantly darkened at his words. She'd only followed him to that rural retreat for his money. What else would she want him for? What's there to love? His refusal to bathe in old age, the musty stench of decay clinging to him, or that disease-ravaged shell of a body. Then it struck me, his prime years, willing or not, were mine. Now this withered husk. Hardly worth fighting over. Let whoever wants this trash take it. Saves me the trouble of arranging his funeral later. I immediately summoned my personal lawyer. Right there in the study, we printed fresh divorce papers, signed on the spot. From now on, He Huiyan gets nothing, not a single thread of what's mine. As He Huiyan signed the document without hesitation, he even berated both children. You ungrateful traitors, from now on, you're no longer my children. With that, he zipped up his suitcase, snatched the car keys from the table, and turned to leave. I urgently called out, Wait, thinking I'd changed my mind. He Huiyan smirked triumphantly, regretting it now. Too late, I'm leaving you for good. I pointed at the luggage and car keys in his hand. I bought the suitcase, and I bought the car. Please don't take my things. 4. He Huan was panting with rage. He clearly hadn't expected me to go this far. Chen Lan pointed at me and snapped, "This is beyond unreasonable. How are we supposed to get to the countryside without a car? Should we just hail a cab?" I chuckled. "Well, that's your problem then." Seeing my unwavering stance, the prideful He Huarian dragged his suitcase back upstairs. Moments later, he descended holding only a plastic bag inside which I could barely make out an old phone and his payroll card. He didn't even pack underwear, since I'd bought all of it, he declared defiantly. "From today onward, we're done. Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau right now and get divorced." With that, he grabbed Chen Lan's hand and stormed out of the villa in utter disgrace. Without a car now, he had to walk a kilometer with Chen Lan from the villa district, where taxis were scarce, to catch multiple bus transfers just to reach the Civil Affairs Bureau downtown. By the time I'd calmed the guests, changed out of my formal wear, and arrived at the bureau escorted by our children in the family car, they still hadn't shown up. Irritated, I had the butler call to hurry them along, only to learn He Huarian, so unaccustomed to public transit, had gotten lost and needed another half hour. Years of privilege had eroded his basic life skills. I genuinely wondered how he and Chen Lan could possibly manage their idealized rural retreat. After another 45 minutes, He Huarian and Chen Lan finally showed up. Both looking rather disheveled, the paperwork was processed quickly, though there was a mandatory 30-day cooling-off period before we could collect the divorce certificate. As He Huarian dragged Chen Lan away, he boasted to me, "Just wait and see, we'll make our countryside life so enviable you'll regret your choices." I found it laughable. What made him think I'd envy his backwater existence after enjoying my current privileged lifestyle? He's being far too idealistic. Country life isn't just the idyllic pastoral scenes he imagines, but also comes with its fair share of mundane hassles. I'm just waiting to see him make a fool of himself. The first thing I told my kids when I got home was, "Starting today, none of you are allowed to help him out financially. If I find out, you'll be cut from the inheritance immediately, even though we're family." I had to lay down the law up front, otherwise I'd end up resentful later while the kids played innocent, claiming they had no idea it was such a big deal. Though they're all siding with me on the surface, blood runs thicker than water. Who knows if they'll secretly favor their father? He Tian, who understands me best, quickly chimed in, "Mom, I'd never lift a finger to help him. He needs to taste hardship to appreciate how sweet life used to be." He Bin also jumped in, "Don't worry. Mom, I won't do anything stupid. Dad's brought this on himself." Just then, the butler approached me. "Madam, shall we maintain the vegetable plot and chicken coop in the courtyard?" I waved my hand dismissively. "Have someone take away those damn roosters that kept everyone awake, tear up the vegetable patch too, and replant the winter-sweet trees that were moved out earlier." After a pause, I added, "Find out who brought Chen Lan here today." They knew perfectly well she's He Huaiyan's first love. This was clearly done to spite me. No invitation means no entry to our family's banquet, that's the rule. The butler worked with remarkable efficiency. Within half an hour, the vegetable plot was cleared and the chicken coop dismantled. They produced surveillance footage showing Chen Lan was brought by Lin Dong, a close associate of He Huarian. I immediately declared, "Our contract with Director Lin is nearing expiration anyway, consider it terminated." This sent a clear message: aiding He Huarian means opposing me. From this day forward, no one in our circle would extend him any assistance. While a 5,000 yuan pension might sustain a modest rural lifestyle for most, this was He Huarian, a man accustomed to burning through money like there's no tomorrow. 5,000, that's barely pocket change for him. Sure enough, that very afternoon Mrs. Li called me, "Zhong. Listen to this old." He came to our supermarket with that Chen Lan in tow this afternoon, said they were buying daily necessities to retire to the countryside. They loaded up a cart, but when it came time to pay, old he realized he was short and asked me for a discount. After how he's treated you, you think I'd give him a discount? I told him prices were firm. Heard he tried getting Chen Lan to cover the bill, but she talked sense into him, said you don't need luxury bedding for simple country living. They left empty-handed, with her dragging him off to some bargain store down the street. That really hit the spot for me. "Thanks, let's play cards sometime, dinner's on me." After years of spoiling He Huarian with Egyptian cotton sheets, silk pajamas, And organic everything, never glancing at price tags. It's high time reality gave him a wake-up call. Burning to know how he Houarian was faring back in that podunk village, I had someone track down the town's last remaining bachelor, bought him a 5G smartphone with data plan, then I slipped him some cash to report on he Houarian and Chenlan's situation to my butler every few days, strictly observation, no interference. I just genuinely wanted to know how they're doing. Knowing they're miserable brings me peace of mind, money well spent. 5. The old bachelor sent a secretly recorded video on the very first day. The footage showed a travel-worn he Houarian dragging Chenlan with their luggage, finally arriving on foot at his rural hometown after multiple bus transfers. The old bachelor sent a secretly recorded video on the very first day. The footage showed a travel-worn he Houarian dragging Chenlan with their luggage, finally arriving on foot at his rural hometown after multiple bus transfers. Stunned, he Houarian stared at the half-collapsed house, its door ajar, interior stripped bare with broken planks and bricks scattered everywhere, cobwebs clinging to every corner, and shattered windows. How could anyone live here? He distinctly remembered leaving this perfectly intact house at 17, fully furnished with flowering plants by the entrance. Now the courtyard was overgrown with weeds and the rooms lay in complete disarray. The old bachelor chuckled. I'm the only one left in this village now, everyone else has moved out. How would I know? That place of yours is definitely uninhabitable. How about renting my nephew's place instead? He Houarian realized renovating the old family home would cost a fortune, money he simply didn't have. With no other choice, he dragged Chenlan over to inspect the place. It turned out to be a bare concrete box with furniture so dilapidated and moldy that he immediately wanted to leave. But the village was too remote, there weren't any other available houses to choose from. The remaining dwellings had been abandoned for so long they'd become completely unlivable. In the end, they settled on that single option. He Houarian told the old bachelor to name his price. The old bachelor dared to quote him a price, $1,200 a month. He Houarian couldn't believe his ears. Are you robbing me? This dump for $1,200? The old bachelor retorted, take it or leave it. You can find places in the city for $500. Why not go back there? But he Houarian had already boasted about embracing rural life. How could he back out now? Glancing at the visibly agitated Chenlan beside him, he gritted his teeth and agreed to save face in front of his beloved. Fine, then, but the place wasn't move-in ready after paying the deposit. Between cleaning, laundry, and general tidying up, it would take at least 2 days to make it livable. Until then, he and Chenlan had no choice but to crash at the old bachelor's place for a couple of nights, according to the caretaker. The old bachelor was a slob, his place reeked with piles of garbage everywhere. Those 2 nights left them with noticeably darker eye circles. Suffering from hypertension, he Houarian nearly passed out from dizziness halfway through cleaning. Yet despite this, he Houarian still clung to his dream of rural seclusion. Chenlan complained several times about the inconveniences and threatened to return to the city, but he Houarian always sweet-talked her into staying. 6. But soon new problems came one after another. They needed to eat. The seeds they bought and the chicks they purchased wouldn't grow fast enough, and their food supplies quickly ran out. Borrowing the old bachelor's tricycle, they barely made it to town and could only afford 10 pounds of rice. He Chengan realized he was broke. His monthly salary of 5,000 yuan, along with rent, daily necessities, a few sets of clothes, and Chenlan's cosmetics, had all been spent in just a few days. Chenlan said, Houarian, let's be more mature and stop fighting against ourselves. Let's go back to the city. I'll return to my nursing home, and you should go back to living properly with your wife. Chenlan had been living in a nursing home funded by her son all these years. But ever since she proposed moving out to live in seclusion with he Houarian, her son cut off her allowance, refusing to spend his money supporting an outsider like he Houarian immediately took offense. Who was it that suggested retiring to the countryside together? I abandoned my family for you, and now you want to go back. This is nothing short of betraying our love. Chenlan knew she was in the wrong, but she simply couldn't adjust to living without financial support. After some thought, she proposed a compromise. My son works in video production, why not have him film our pastoral retreat? We'll need income to sustain this secluded life. He Houarian initially refused. Believing that having his private life filmed would disrupt his seclusion, what kind of hermit lifestyle would that be? But fearing Chen Lan might leave him, he reluctantly agreed. Chen Lan's son had some marketing savvy. He quickly purchased online promotions to package their reclusive life, using clever cinematography to portray them as an inseparable couple living an idyllic retreat. The videos showed the couple working with the sunrise and resting at dusk. Their attractive appearances and palpable chemistry soon attracted a devoted following, with fans hailing them as the epitome of true love. When I heard the news, I couldn't help but laugh. This is his so-called reclusive life. What a joke. All that persona building and filming was so fake. Yet it actually helped them make their first fortune. 7. He Tian asked me afterward, "Mom, should I expose the truth and ruin their reputations?" I shook my head. No rush. Let them dance a little longer. My leniency meant none of my relatives or friends came forward to expose their dirty laundry, so the couple thought they were home free. At first, He Huarien was awkward on camera. It was always Chen Lan recounting their youthful romance while he played the part of a humble, hard-working man, occasionally picking fruit to feed her. Once brand deals started pouring in and money flooded their account, He Huarien got carried away, chasing clout. He gushed about his love for Chen Lan on camera. "I owed her so much in my youth. This quiet life is my way of making it up to her." Chen Lan affectionately called out to him, "My dear, having you is my greatest blessing." Seeing the perfect timing, I had someone comment in the live stream, "You two look so happy together. Do you have any children?" He Huarien thought of his estranged children who'd threatened to cut ties with him, avoiding eye contact. He was about to say no when Chen Lan pointed at the man helping them film and said with a smile, "That's our son." My team knew how to steer the conversation. "He doesn't look like Grandpa's kid at all. Are you sure he's really your son?" How could He Huarien possibly admit on camera that the child wasn't his, but actually born to someone else? That would completely ruin his devoted husband persona. He had no choice but to nod and say, "Yes, he's my son. He takes after his mother more." One lie breeds 100 more. In subsequent live streams, with deliberate prompting from my people, He Huarien increasingly played up his affection for Chen Lan's son on camera, until someone came forward with their real name to expose Huan fake father. "The whistleblower is my daughter He Tian. She inherited my decisiveness. When action is needed, she doesn't hesitate." She directly produced hotel records of He Huan's affairs with Chen Lan during our marriage, along with videos showing him cutting ties with his own children for Chen Lan's sake. This irrefutably branded He Huarien as a scumbag and tarnished Chen Lan's reputation, crushing their plans to monetize a retreat to the countryside image. The online backlash against them was brutal, with absolutely savage comment sections. Thought it was some epic love story. Turns out the guy was cheating with an older mistress. Disgusting. He only talks about owing that older woman. But what about his own wife? How could he do this to his first spouse, abandoning his own children to call his mistress's son? This old man is beyond belief, reported. As the backlash grew, many netizens who had just purchased their promoted products immediately requested refunds, prompting manufacturers to demand compensation. To make matters worse, their accounts were soon banned by the platform. Chen Lan's son consequently stopped filming videos for them, and the recently earned money was all paid out in compensations, leaving them to rely solely on He Huizhang's meager 5,000 yuan pension again. They rushed to withdraw the money at month's start. He needed it for rent and medication, while Chen splurged on winter clothes and skincare. Their reckless spending soon erupted into a heated argument over who was draining their funds faster. One early morning, Chen Lan quietly slipped away alone to town. Catching a ride back to the city to join her son, she was determined to part ways with He Huizhang for good. In the end, only He Huizhang remained in that little mountain village courtyard. 8. He Tian told me, "Since my father wants to retreat to pastoral life, let him do it properly, a complete retreat without distractions. Consider this my filial gift to him." I'm very pleased with Tian's actions, so as a reward, I gave her a set of my treasured jewelry. When he been returned and saw I'd given that jewelry set to Tian, he wasn't happy. "Mom, my girlfriend liked that set too. Why couldn't you wait?" I chuckled. Though he been pretends to side with me, he's just like his father, full of petty schemes. I threw a pile of evidence in front of him. Didn't I warn you? I told you not to support your father, but you wouldn't listen, and now you dare ask me for jewelry. You'd better explain yourself first." Faced with irrefutable evidence, Bin finally admitted, "I just saw Dad's influencer career taking off and didn't want his later years to be miserable. I only bought some fake followers as a casual favor. Mom, I'm still on your side." I shook my head, unwavering. "The moment you chose to betray me for him, our paths were destined to diverge. I'd warned him before not to help Hurian. He brought this on himself by not listening. He's completely reaping what he sowed." I revoked his position within the group and reclaimed the assets that were about to be transferred to his name. "I believe he won't stop until he hits a brick wall." I told him, "As you wish. You're now free to help him to your heart's content." I thought Bin would choose to return to the small mountain village and live with his father. But no, he was smarter than his father. He took it as a warning and quickly cut ties, repeatedly vowing never to see his dad again while calling me daily to apologize. But I stood firm. His life had been smooth sailing for too long. Since he stabbed me in the back, let him navigate this world on his own, without me as his safety net. Bin had to grind like any ordinary young adult, sending out resumes and enduring endless job interviews. His girlfriend dumped him over this and jumped into the arms of another trust fund kid. News of Hurian reached me again 2 months later. Rumor had it he'd been kept awake by rats for several nights before suffering a sudden cerebral hemorrhage. The remote location delayed medical care. By the time he reached the hospital, he was already partially paralyzed. None of his relatives dared intervene, terrified of crossing me. When he begged Bin for help, the call ended abruptly, followed by an immediate block. He begged Chenlan to take care of him for a while out of their past affection, but she bluntly replied, "I'm busy, got my hands full with matchmaking. You're on your own." Chenlan had her sights set on marrying into wealth. She'd never settle for roughing it through hard times with him. With no one to care for him, he tried hiring a maid, but even the cheapest demanded 300-500, paying that would leave him broke, no rent money, let alone medicine. Only then did Bin truly regret everything. He called me repeatedly, but couldn't get through. I'd already blocked him. He tried to reach me through mutual friends, but they all avoided him like the plague. With no one to care for him, he passed away from illness in the hospital within days. The neighborhood committee arranged his cremation. Neither I nor my children attended his funeral or paid our respects. It was as if he'd never existed, completely erased from memory. As for me, I continued my wonderful retirement life, while handing over the corporation to my daughter He Tiantian, or rather Zhong Tiantian now, since she took my surname after changing hers. As for Bin, without my support, he now lives like an ordinary person, getting married, falling in love, and stumbling through life's lessons. I won't interfere with his life, nor will I offer him any assistance. As for Chenlan, Huian's death didn't affect her at all. She still flirted with old men in the nursing home, went on endless dates hoping to land a sugar daddy, but ended up sleeping her way through every elderly resident without finding a single wealthy one, only to contract a nasty disease and pass away soon after. Calm as a bitch. The end.